Welcome back to the Wizarding World! I am Catherine Toll, and this is my co-host, Stephazoid. We are about to be joined by the developers of Witch Wizard. And they are Brad, Lil, and Trent. Welcome, friends, to the world of Witch Wizard. Which wizard are you? How are you doing today?
Great.
Tell us a little bit about Witch Wizard before we watch the trailer.
Ooh. Witch Wizard is a multiplayer social deduction game with magic. Ooh, watch out.
Magic.
This is what magic looks like.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. Let us check out this trailer, and we'll say hi to Trent as well, who's lurking in the background
Hello.
doing magical things. Hi, Trent. Welcome. All right, let's watch this trailer. Oh my gosh. I love it. So tell us a little bit about the origin of this game. Where did it come from? Of course, people are going to probably make some, draw some connections to, Among Us and those sorts of things. How did this game start?
Lil, do you want to start us off with the origin story of Witch Wizard?
Oh man, okay, I gotta make it grand. It was a long, dark, stormy night. But really, it was at the Seattle Indie Slow Jam last year. Actually, Brad and I jammed together earlier in 2020, whenever 2020 was at this point, and we decided to get together for the Slow Jam again. And we were inspired by all the fun that we were having with Among Us, and just like really wanted to like the way that it brought people together to play at a time when it was so hard to be together. And we wanted to create something similar with all the things that inspire us, that want us to get together with friends and have a magical time, because we're all big fantasy nerds. And we found Trent through the Seattle Indies Discord as well, as our wonderful musician, and Surey Ian Haji, who is our producer as well as narrative designer, as well as like game designer in some aspects as well. And we all, just gave it a shot, and it was a really fun time. And we decided to just keep going with it after the jam was done. It was awesome.
Yeah, it was we had 2 weeks to make a game. And most people that's 2 weeks of light amount of work for normal game jam, but we were like, let's do an online 10-player
multiplayer experience.
let's make something really big, and it turned out really well, and we decided to keep going with it. But yeah, and it's fantastic, and we have a lot of great talent on the project. Super honored to work with everyone on the team. It's been great.
Well, certainly a large undertaking for even 2 weeks. Did you have to create an entire multiplayer engine? What was that like to take on multiplayer?
Yeah, so on the engineering side, we use Unity, and we use something called Photon. So it's peer-to-peer, which made it a lot easier. It sort of handles a lot of the really heavy lifting of multiplayer. But there's a lot of stuff that goes into multiplayer. And yeah, multiplayer is one of those things that's really hard to add to a game, like a single player game. But luckily, we built this from the ground up, multiplayer, so that helps. But yeah, it's social deduction, and there's magic, and the magic changes the game in really, really big ways. And yeah, so like let's talk about like magic in general. Um, Lil, what do you like about magical fantasy places?
Other than the fact that you could do what you want and be a wizard, it's, I mean, what else is there past that really? But to be more granular about it, um, like the idea of employing more strategy into the ways that you navigate a social deduction game like this, um, came from Soraya, and we all were just like, that's great because so many other social deduction games, much like Mafia and Secret Hitler, they all kind of do their own unique thing as it pertains to social deduction. And with us, like, we wanted to actually give players tool sets and skills to be able to essentially tailor make their murders, or tailor make strategies, that can either involve you as an individual employing a grand scheme or working as a team together, and figuring out how to overcome the evil wizards, that are trying to plot your murders and stuff. And on my end of things, I'm a big fan of D&D and fantasy tabletop games, and so the a lot of the inspiration for this in the magical sense for me came at like wanting to essentially digitally build my own like dungeon map, like a physical tabletop map. So a lot of my art was inspired by tabletop props and dungeon map pack assets. Oh, I'm using words. And I just really like the idea that of like big floppy hats as an aesthetic. Who doesn't love that at any time of the year? And being able to cast spells at one another or for one another or to encourage the murders of one another. It seems like a really, really great and fun way to inject so much chaos while also in certain aspects encouraging you to use them for good in some cases.
Yeah.
And in another way, it's also like in what we are trying to do is to make sure that everybody, we have wizard subclasses so that you have a particular spell that you can cast, but you're not the only person who gets to do that. So we have given players essentially a tool they can use, but to what purpose they use it for is completely up to them.
That is.
And is
such
this
cool integration?
is this
Yeah.
similar to something like having a role in Avalon?
Yes. So these subclasses are they're super exciting. There's something to get excited about. So um it's all about giving players tools, as Lo was saying, and what you use those tools for is up to you. So right now in the gameplay, we can actually see, we actually just saw one of those tools being used. Currently, this wizard is a seer. So they have transfrogify, which all wizards have, and it allows you to turn someone into a frog. And while they're a frog, they can't cast magic and they move slower. So if you think someone's going to kill you, you can turn them into a frog and they can't. And maybe you run away.
Hmm.
And we saw the seer ability, and the seer ability lets you see different parts around the map, no matter where you are in the map. But only the seers have that ability. So this differs from roles in a lot of games, social deduction games, because a lot of times the role will say whether or not you're guilty or innocent. Like, oh, I'm the medic, so I'm innocent. And in this game, being the healer does not mean you're innocent. You can be an evil healer, and those are OP. They're really good.
Okay.
Cool.
They're particularly nefarious.
Yeah. Someone will be healing you all game, like giving you magic and like giving you like all this wonderful goodies, and then you'll be like, "Oh, I'm sticking by you because you're, giving me all these fun gifts." And then, nope, not anymore. Sorry.
But it's a trap.
Betrayal.
Hmm.
So there's a question from chat. How difficult was it creating the mini games and the roles or the spells?
Ooh. The mini games are fun. So what you're seeing here is from the lower left corner, you can see alpha footage. This a lot of these mini games were done in 2 days for the jam. They're still in like the jam sort of period. Some of them have been dressed up a little bit, and then the abilities are like depends on the ability. Some of them are a little more involved. Some of them are pretty straightforward, and we had other things in the game to sort of help with that. But yeah, it depends on the abilities, but the abilities are definitely like the bread and butter. So this game, so everybody knows, it's your air elemental, and your power is haste, and you can move fast for a little period of time, making it easy to run away or easy to sneak up on someone or just do more quests and get more magic. So that's
We
pretty
have
fun.
been told that when an evil wizard is casting haste to murder you quicker, it's apparently quite terrifying. We heard from a couple of playtesters, which I found deeply hilarious when I heard that.
They're like sharks. They just like plunge, and you're like, get away. But yeah, that's pretty cool. And so yeah, we're a pretty great group of people working on this. There's 4 of us, and whenever we were forming the team during the jam, um, Lil and I knew each other beforehand going in. Soraya was brought in, and then Trent reached out and offered to do the music. And I was at the time, my mindset is like, I'll just make something really like low key, maybe like not necessarily bad, but like I'll just do something. But Trent is the music composer for the project, and there's just some really wonderful, beautiful songs in here. Trent, if you wanted to talk about any of that.
Oh, sure, yeah. I was super happy to be paired up with all them for the game jam. I was struck immediately. It's like this is a friendly group of people. Yeah, like whenever we interact, it's very pleasant, and everyone kind of says what they need to say, and there's like everything's handled really well. Yeah, with the music, before this year, I had previously basically exclusively done Skyrim mods. And if you play like quest mods in Skyrim, you probably have played one of the mods that I wrote the music for. The most popular one is called the Forgotten City, which I think gets like number 1 or number 2 on the most played quest mods ever.
Wow.
And so but at the same time, even though Skyrim is a very different sound than what I'm going for in Witch Wizard, I feel like I have sort of like an overarching philosophy as like music as a language, and then asking like, what does the project want musically? Like what's its voice and what's it trying to say? In terms of the style of this, I listen to composers like Prokofiev. The Russians tend to be really good at wind writing in particular, and that's a really heavy influence on the sound. And also Fable, if you're familiar with that series,
Yeah.
written by Russell Shaw, which sort of has like a humorous, fanciful air about it. And I think that's like the easiest comparison stylistically to what I want for Witch Wizard. I want something magical. I want something friendly, humorous, inviting, because ultimately, we want this to feel like it feels good to play Witch Wizard. It feels good to be in this world, and music is a part of that. But there's also like the art and the way that the game works and how it feels to play. Yeah.
Well, you answered my question. I was going to ask you what your influences were making this music.
Yeah,
I really like it. It does have that wonderful, airy, fanciful feeling to it.
It does.
Yeah, it just seemed to really want that sort of friendly, humorous style of writing, and woodwinds in particular have a certain color and character about them, which lends itself really well to that. So that's why when you listen to the score, there's a lot of bassoon, and it just seemed to be the right fit.
So
Nice. Yeah.
looking at the gameplay, just to
You
sort
died.
of, yeah, I did die.
Died.
Looking at the gameplay here, I wanted to call out a few things that people might have seen. One, as a ghost, you might have noticed the suspicious haunt button. That is very suspicious. It is very different. Basically, if you're an evil wizard and you kill someone, they may or may not be able to haunt you after they die, and you may or may not see them creepily watching you from the ghostly afterlife.
I
Yes,
love
maybe.
this.
And then there's also something evil ability called Who's Who, and Who's Who takes everyone's color and everyone's names, identity completely away for like 10 seconds, and it's really, really good for just really intense plays. And I
Straight up
think we
murder.
have one I think we have one coming up here. I think this might be the game, but yeah, I'll call it out when I see it. But it can get pretty brutal with Who's Who, and it's really fun.
Oh, that is exciting. While we wait for that to happen, we see a lot of things on these maps and things like that. We did see this big old dragon, and someone in chat wanted to know if there is deep lore for that dragon and what it might be.
There actually is. That dragon is like a little dragon pup, and to be clear, we are still working on the lore for the game, but so far we have it as they found their way to this castle and crashed in it and decided to just kind of make a home there because nobody was using it, and they're immune to the haunted castle's life draining effects because they're dragon. And they just like to chill out in there. It's technically their house, you know. We're the ones who are invading whenever we go. We are. That's why whenever you go and interact with that dragon, the task is to pet it and give it some love. You're giving your proper cuddle tithes to the true owner of this castle. Let's be real. But yeah, we're really excited about that particular bit just because it was really fun during the gems. Like, what if we had a dragon? And that was literally it. And we're just like, there were no complaints from anybody. Let's put a dragon in there.
And the dragon's name is Mimo.
Yep.
Oh,
That actually ties in really well with a lot of what Soraya is doing. Soraya is our producer and narrative designer and does like gameplay design and stuff like that. But the world of Witch Wizard has a pretty awesome backstory and pretty great lore. Soraya's done a great job of making this world, and going back to what Trent was saying earlier, we want this world to feel like someplace you'd want to explore, and like the world of this has been lived in. There's stories for each room. There's like a lot of stuff, and this is alpha footage right now, but like the
Oh no.
I think we lost Brad.
in this
Nope, we got him back. We're good.
sorry, but the goal of the goal we're going into right now is to make it feel like you're in this world, and this world is something that has a history. This world is something that is just magical, pure magic.
And actually, addressing the previous question that somebody asked earlier about like, was it difficult or how did we come up with our mini game ideas, as well as I think it was there was another or spells and subclasses. That the lore that Soraya wrote is kind of one of the reasons why that wasn't terribly difficult to come up with. In fact, it wasn't like we were straining for an idea. She just gave us a really great foundation from which to just be like, oh, you know, it'd be really fun applied into a game mechanic or a mini game here. Something to do with this little bit of lore that gave me an idea, and we're all able to just contribute to that and think of things that would be interesting. And then if we come up with an interesting mini game idea, she's also able to be like, oh, that might be a really good lore tidbit that I could add in. So we try to keep a pretty fluid work process while also recognizing boundaries and making sure like there are limitations, right? But we try to keep it as open as possible to make sure that nothing's ever really a struggle until it just happens that like, okay, we might be tapped out of ideas for this, but look at all these other ideas that we have that we can explore. Let's see what we can do with that.
See, look.
Yeah,
that
and
kill
this is
just
that brutal
happened.
kill.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Wasn't that in the middle of a giant group of people?
Yep. With Who's
Wow.
Who,
Ballsy.
it's yeah,
never
it's
know.
ambitious. If you can keep a track and like keep an eye on where people are and like figure them out that way. But Who's Who is really, really good for like when people are grouped, or if someone's like following you uncomfortably or anything like that, and you're the killer, you're like, how do I get out of this? But you can even do plays like if you want to use a portal, you can who's who walk to the portal right in front of someone and use the portal and like get out just fine. Or like you can hop out of the portal when someone's in the room and they can see you hop out, and then you can hop back in and there's like no repercussions with who's who. It's pretty that's bad manners. That's what like some gamers would call BM. That might be BM, but it's pretty fun.
No, the height of bad manners is using Mimo's room as a kill room. Because
Yeah.
like people, it happened during a couple playtest sessions where people would be petting Mimo the dragon, and that's when they would get murdered. And I'm like, that's just rude. How dare?
Oh, sad.
That person, you know, that
Jeez.
person's a monster.
Well, what else do you have planned before the release, or what is kind of your release schedule, if you can tell us?
Ooh.
Well, there's a massive art overhaul because I just want to make sure that I nail in the style of tabletop props that I really want to encapsulate within this game, because like I said, when we said earlier that we want to recreate the feeling of playing together in a room, that's one of the big reasons why the tabletop sort of scene really speaks to me in that way, because I can just at least feel that you're looking at this one diorama on the table that somebody lovingly crafted together that you can all partake in. There are going to be a lot of redesigns, lots of new minigame assets, because we are, as we go through the minigame redesigns, to make them a little bit more lore related and more lore engaged. Trent has some magnificent jingles lined up to be implemented within each room, which is going to be great.
Nice.
Brad, what else did we have?
Oh, we have a lot of cool upcoming spell ability ideas. In my mind, everyone could potentially have like a unique spell, which would be really neat. But yeah, like just a ton of different magic and new strategies. We find that with this game, any tools we give the players will use tools in ways that we envisioned and like then some. Like all of these abilities in this setting, just it creates a lot of different gameplay moments. Whereas something like Transfrogify, which, as I said earlier, is usually used defensively if like you're afraid of a killer, or if the killer wants to slow you down or something from like finding a body, they can do that. But like I've been in a game where someone was suspicious of someone behind them and they knew that they were coming up, so they turned someone else into a frog to try to bait the killer into killing them so that they could like solve the mystery. So like there's so many different layers going on. And like I also want to call out the magic bar, or which will be eventually be a health bar, ticking down. That's your life energy, and if you die, if it hits 0 and you're a good wizard, you'll die. So like not even death is fully like a evil wizard's fault. Like even an evil wizard, if they killed someone next to somebody, could be like, oh, maybe they were out of magic. Like
Yeah, so you can blame it on the fact that
you might not get away with it. Yeah, you might not get away with it, especially for more experienced players. But there's just a lot of new layers, and so I'd like to play around. And we have a group of playtesters. We have a Discord channel, which is amazing, and we do play sessions on there, and get a lot of feedback as far as like, oh, this is fun, or like this is okay, but like what if it was like this? And get to see all these little strategies that come up, and it's really fun.
That's so cool. All right, well, you mentioned the Discord. We will put the Discord in the chat. We're gonna have to wrap up soon, but I wanted to thank you all so much for showing us this game. There's so much to it, and maybe at first glance someone might just be like, oh, it's like Among Us. But no, there's so many more things going on in this game, whether it's the spells, the different types of mini games. There's a dragon you can pet. Who doesn't love that? So thank you so much for being here and sharing this wonderful game with us. So thank you, Brad and Lil and Trent.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
It
Thank
was
you.
really fun
And
to
we'll put
present.
some. Yeah.
And wishlist the game on Steam, please. It is
Please
wishlistable.
do. It always helps developers, and it will give you a reminder when the game comes out that you should buy it. All right. Well, thank you so much. We've got to go to our last break.